And welcome back to the Journey to the FarLands. Alright, let's see if I got everything together here. Well, it sort of looks like it. Let's break out of here. Get out here, okay. No nasties about. Go ahead and get the hidey hole plugged up. And we're headed that way. Alright. On the way to the FarLands. Okay. Anyway, let's see. On this not yet bright Sunday morning, and I say not yet bright because it's like 6:30 in the morning for me. Getting an early start today. And let's see. On this not yet bright early morning, the size of the world. We've reached a milestone. And that is, the size of the world is 2008.67 megabytes. That means we've crossed the 2 gigabyte barrier. The world has now reached 2 gigabytes in size. That's pretty big. To give you sort of an idea, my single-player Minecraft world that I started in March of 2011, that world is, the world save for that one is around 545 megabytes. The difference being that world, I have some idea of how big it is, because I have used a utility on occasion to tell me how big the world is, specifically in terms of how many chunks make up that world. A chunk being an area in Minecraft that is 16 blocks wide by 16 blocks long. And that's how the world is loaded, in 16 block chunks. And that single player world is made up of something just over 100,000 16 block chunks. And it's only 544 megabytes, or 545, or something like that. And this world is 2008 megabytes. I hesitate to even estimate how many chunks make up this world. But I know it's a lot. Oh yeah. And at some point, I'm going to be interested to find out what that is. But that will, of course, have to wait. In the meanwhile, perhaps some of you at least will remember these nasty little bugs that I talked about some time ago in a vlog or two, called Timeflies. Now, Timeflies are a very, very special variety of insect. Because you see, when there are Timeflies about, time appears to function somewhat strangely. Because when the Timeflies are around, from your perspective, time doesn't seem to very much to pass hardly at all. But in reality, outside of the influence of that they're having on you, the time is actually progressing quite quickly at its normal pace. But for you, it seems to be not moving very much at all. And therefore, what can seem like a few minutes to you could in fact be several hours to anyone not under the influence of Timeflies. And, yeah, well, I've had another encounter with the dreaded Timeflies. And it seems that, well, there are certain activities I have found that kind of encourage the activity of Timeflies. Hello, Mr. Zombie. We don't want to hear from you. And one of those activities that really, seriously, majorly shows, it kind of encourages or attracts Timeflies. One of the activities that does this is anytime you happen to start the game, Ark Survival Evolved, that thing has a definite attraction to Timeflies. And I know this because I can start it up to sort of spend just a little while working on this or that, with every intention to stop after a little bit and do whatever else. And next thing I know, it is many hours later, and I'm asking myself, where did the time go? Well, it went the way of the Timeflies, of course. It was eaten by the Timeflies. And, yeah. Well, this happened very recently. Oh, excuse me. I hate doing that on an open mic. Well, the Timeflies did indeed strike. You see, last night, Saturday night, I was supposed to stream because I have made up a schedule that I am attempting to keep with live streaming on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, starting at 6 p.m. Central Time. And yeah, I've had difficulty keeping that schedule because schedules and I don't get along at all. But I've been trying to do it anyway. And sometimes I don't have too hard of a time, and other times it's like, ugh, what a mess. And, well, yesterday I joined up with the Pooping Evolved Ark Survival Evolved series, server. This is the Ark server where Slipgator and Zul'jin and let's see, I believe that's Spumwack and XP Crafted and a number of other names that should be familiar to many are playing. And yeah. And I figured, I decided that I was going to go ahead and kind of like live stream the startup. And, the idea was that in the single player game that I'm doing, I already did the start from zero thing. And I thought, instead of doing another start from zero video, that I would live stream the startup. And, well, that didn't quite work out that way, as you can imagine. Especially if you were expecting to see a notice that I was starting a live stream yesterday evening, last night, and never saw it. That would be because the Timeflies struck. I logged in mostly to get a first look around and get my character made up, the character creation screen, get that stuff done, and so on. And it just went, one thing led to another, I'm going to go ahead and get started, so let's go ahead and do a little bit of this. Get some of this early, super boring, grindy stuff out of the way. And, oh man, it was one thing after another. Now, mind you, I had a lot of fun doing it. I really did. It was a blast. It was, in fact, so much of a blast that when I finally looked up from the game, it was after midnight. It was 6.5 hours later. Well after midnight. And, yeah, as you can imagine, my reaction. It included some words that I will not repeat here. Words that express an intense degree of frustration with oneself and are not repeatable in polite company. Because when you're that frustrated with yourself with something you've done or not done or messed up or whatever, then you sometimes will leak a few words that are less than public friendly. Yeah. Oh man, it was an adventure. It really was. You see, I had this idea. I had this quote-unquote brilliant idea that I was going to basically get a little bit of a start and get myself to a position where I could manage to do the trip without too much of a problem, and then travel from my starting position, which is the same general area as I started in the single player series, because I'm familiar with that part of the map, so I chose the same South 3 startup as I did in the single player, simply because I'm a little bit familiar with that part of the map, It makes sense. And, I was going to make the trip from there to Poop City, because, it's just sort of made sense. And, it was such a special time. Oh, I tell you what. There was at least, 3 or 4 times that I was actually ready, almost ready, I thought. The key word is I thought. I was almost ready to go ahead and attempt to make the journey inland to Poop City. And oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Oh man, was I wrong. You see, in that time, the part that I haven't mentioned yet is that in that time, in that 6.5 hours or whatever, the good part is that I managed to move myself up to about level 24, which puts me in a lot of ways in a similar situation to where I'm at in the single player game, and puts me in a situation to where I won't have to be repeating stuff I've already done in the single player, and I can move on to the bigger and better things that exist afterwards. But in that time I died. It must have been 30 times. Like, the first time was just a couple of minutes after getting started, and that's when the Timeflies flew in. I'm pretty sure that's when the Timeflies hit. And they didn't hit because I was having fun, because, you know, when you die in a game, that's not fun. It happens, and you deal with it, but it's not really what you'd call fun. But I had gone down the beach, and I was looking for some critters to help provide me with some meat and hide. And I ran into critters, all right. These Titanomyrna, I think it is. I'm not certain of the pronunciation. Basically, they are giant ants or mosquitoes or something like that. There is a flying variety and a walking variety. And in my hunt for things like dodos and small critters that I could successfully take out at level 1 without getting toasted, I managed to walk right into a pretty good sized bunch of them. It must have been 6 or 7 of the things. And 6 or 7 bugs. Hello, lava. 6 or 7 bugs doesn't sound like much until you realize, oh, hello, spawner. All right. Of course, I don't really need much of this. I'll take the iron. And I don't need any of the rest of it. Yeah, all right. 6 or 7 bugs, yeah. You wouldn't think that'd be too big a deal until you realize that these bugs, well, using the character as a size reference, I would say that the bugs are a good 2 to 2.5 feet long. Yeah, try having an encounter with ants that are 2.5 feet long and armored. That armored chitin is really tough to get through when they're that big, especially when the closest thing you have to a weapon is a stone hatchet that is about 50% used up. Yeah, and obviously, of course, the first thought is, okay, it's time to run. Yeah, well, that's a good theory. And it's even a good idea. The problem is, these bugs are both tenacious, as all get out, and fast. They are just about as fast, if not a little faster, than the player. Especially when the player is like a level 1 or 2, and, well, maybe 3. I forget exactly. But low level, and not having had a chance to, or the opportunity at all, to increase one's stamina or health very much at all, to where, you know, when you start out, you run for a minute or so and your stamina's gone. And you add to that the fact that those bugs have a poison effect that can seriously slow you down. That poison will negatively affect your stamina, your health. Yeah. And in spite of all of that, I did actually manage to get what I thought was far enough ahead of them that they, in my opinion, I thought they would, you know, kind of lose interest. Yeah, that's gonna happen. Excuse me, emergency mute. All right, and I'm back. Okay. Well, trust me, you didn't want to hear that. I didn't want to hear it, but I didn't have a choice. Yeah, so I thought I had evaded them. In my mind, I had evaded them. I got away from them. They were not immediately behind me anymore. And so I decided, okay, fine. I'll just head back to the hut that I had built on the beach, and everything would be fine. I'd go on about my business. I just wouldn't go back to where I encountered the bugs. Yeah. The bugs had indeed followed me home. They just took a little longer to get there. And when they did, they started attacking the walls. Now, mind you, my little starter hut was only made of thatch, and so it can't stand up to very much. It didn't take very long before one of them managed to tear through the wall and get inside. And so I am all of a sudden inside the house, flailing about like mad, trying to squash this bug that isn't so little. And, oh, what an adventure. I very nearly broke a couple of storage chests and did break a wall section. And finally managed to nail the bug. And then, of course, there's the other bug that was still chewing away at a section of wall. Oh, wait a minute. Let's do this right. And so I finally, I'm getting after that other bug and finally got the bugs down. And then the third one that was with the second one, got it taken care of. Because they had sort of kind of glitched into the wall a little bit to where they were kind of stuck there. But they weren't going to go away either. Oh, you've got to be kidding me, Minecraft. Really? Well, so much for that idea. Thought I was going to break the sandbar and just make myself a pathway, but nope. Anyway, so finally finish off the bugs. The good part is that once the bugs are dead, you can hack at them with a hatchet and collect chitin, which is useful for a couple of things. You can use it to make cementing paste, and you can also use it to make chitin armor later on in the game. So it's worth collecting. But, oh boy, you know, when you're like a level 1 or 3 or maybe 5 at the outside, you really don't want to run into a nest of those things. Because they will probably have you for lunch. And I know because before I managed to evade them... No, that was another time. I was going to say before I managed to evade them, they killed me. But no, that was another time. The first time I did barely manage to evade them, at least I thought. As it turns out, I hadn't evaded them very much because they did follow me home, but yeah. Didn't I just make boats? I'm quite sure that I did. Oh well. Anyway. No, the time that they killed me was another time that I managed to walk into a nest of them. Well, no, I didn't walk into the nest of them. I ran into the nest of them. Because when I ran into the bunch of those bugs, I was running away from a raptor. And anybody that has seen Jurassic Park will understand raptors are not a good thing to encounter at low levels. They can be tricky even a little higher up if you don't have decent gear to fight them with. So, yeah, that was really special. Yeah, and basically it just was one thing after another the whole time. And I kept thinking, if I could just achieve such and such, I can get myself to the point where I'll be able to make the trip inland. And that was such an illusion. I gotta tell you, it was all complete 100% illusion, because there ain't no way that was gonna happen. Because all of this stuff, all the stuff that I'm talking about, it happened within probably no more than 200 yards from the beach. No more than that. Within about 200 yards of the southern beach, which in the startup screen where you choose where you're going to enter the game, it is referred to as South 3. That is the most newbie-friendly area on the island. Which means it has the least amount of voraciously hungry nasties of any other of all the different places you can spawn. Yeah. As you go inland, it gets more quote-unquote fun. Well, it gets a lot more challenging, we'll put it that way. Because as you go inland, you encounter, well, you run into more raptors. And other things like carnos, carnivores, Tyrannosaurus, Spinosaurus, and did I mention lots of raptors? In the waters, you can find things like mega piranha in the rivers and in the ocean water. And then oh, that's not such a great idea. Let's go over this way. In the ocean, I understand there's even bigger fun things to deal with. Megalodon, the prehistoric shark, which is basically a gigantic eating machine, because that's pretty much about all it does, is eat. Anything and everything that gets close enough to it. Yeah, and Megalodon is big enough that, you remember the great white from Jaws? The great white shark from Jaws? It was like a 25-footer. Megalodon would make one of those look like a goldfish. Yeah. I mean, this is basically an attack submarine made of meat and teeth and more teeth. And oh, by the way, did I mention teeth? Yeah. That sort of thing. And so, yeah, the trip inland, I figured I'd manage to get to the ability where I could at least move fast enough to evade most of the predators. And I'm kind of getting to the point now where I'm thinking maybe that isn't quite going to happen. because I find right now that even at a level 24 character, I find it incredibly easy to become lunch for whatever happens along the way. Like, for example, there was one time I was butchering a kill, not paying enough attention to the other critters that were walking around the area, and I accidentally hit a Triceratops. Now, Triceratops is not hostile unless you attack it. Triceratops is a herbivore. It is not a meat eater. It does not need to or have any interest in attacking whatever comes along or anything like that. However, if attacked, or if you make the mistake of stealing its egg, then it will become very interested in attacking. Not for the purpose of eating, but for the purpose of killing. Yeah. And in spite of the fact that they don't have the greatest stamina in the world, when you accidentally hit one while you're aiming at the dodo, it's walking by and you accidentally hit the thing, it becomes enraged and it immediately displays an amazing ability to chase you down and stomp you flat. Yeah. That happened. It didn't happen twice, I will say that, because after it did happen, I was most careful around Triceratops, especially a level 70 some odd Triceratops that turned out to have quite the temper. And that was another thing that I hadn't counted on. That server's been up and running for quite some time. Those critters on there are not the level 1 and 5 and 10 things that you would expect and can probably expect on a freshly started game. That's been going for quite a while. And it didn't take me too awfully long to realize that there was an awful lot of level 60 and 70 plus things out there. A number of level 100 and plus sort of things. There was one time I actually surprised myself quite a bit, because I spotted a lone Dilophosaur. Now, Dilophosaur you might recognize also from Jurassic Park. You remember when the the greedy fat programmer guy went and he stole specimens that he was going to sell for so many millions of dollars or whatever it was, and he was on the way out in the rain and ran his Jeep off the road, and he was going to use the Jeep's tow cable to wrap around a tree and pull the Jeep back onto the road or something like that. And the critters that he ran into, they spat this goo in his face so that he couldn't see, and they proceeded to feast upon him. And by the way, couldn't happen to a nicer guy. those a Dilophosaur. I ran into one, or found one, spotted one that was by itself. And there were, at the time, no other critters around. So I figured, okay, here's a chance. Perhaps I can get this thing tamed and have at least one of these guys on my side. You know, that's always good to have more on your side. So I proceeded to attack. And it wasn't until it killed me that I found out that it was actually a level 80-something. I decided to outstubborn it, and I went back and attacked again. And on the third attack, I actually did manage to knock the thing out. I managed to hit it enough to knock it out. And from there, it's just a matter of quickly run back to the house, which was fortunately close by, and get the narco berries and some meat, and proceed to tame the thing. Then it's just a matter of time. Keeping it unconscious with narco berries until it is completely tamed. And I realize that's not necessarily how such a thing would work in real life, but it's not real life, it's a game. And I was successful. I managed to get it tamed. And this gave me the inspiration, the hope to go ahead and, sufficient hope to go ahead and repeat this a couple or three times until I finally had tamed. I had reached the point where I had 3 Dilophosaurs, the level 80-some, a level 35, and a level 135. Oh, I just realized it's hidey hole time. You see, the Timeflies. I tell you, the Timeflies did it. See, I'm talking about all this stuff, telling the story of how I got wrapped up with the Timeflies and they nuked the stream on me, and they very nearly had me going on past the point where I had planned to stop. Get out of there. Yeah, see that last bed is for here. Okay, now go ahead and put that out there. Get some more made. Okay, get rid of that again. Get rid of the extra cobble. All right. Yeah, the Timeflies. They did it. It's a conspiracy, I tell you. The Timeflies are planning disaster. All right. In spite of the Timeflies, I have had fun. I hope you've enjoyed the misadventures of TinFoilChef in his first day on Pooping Evolved, his first several game days, the first 6.5 hours of real time. It just kind of vanished in a moment. And we'll try very hard to avoid getting trapped by the Timeflies again. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Take it easy. I am out of here.